Thrawn, in a lot of ways, his leadership style is similar to Ted Lasso's. He's somebody that believes in his people and gives them enough trust and like, I guess, a long enough leash to do their own thing, and he trusts that his people are going to do their part in battle or in whatever mission they're in, which is something that's completely different than other Imperial officers. How's it going, everybody? I hope that you are having a great day. So today's video is pretty exciting to me because I'm a huge Thrawn fan, and we got some really cool insight into who Thrawn is going to be in the Ahsoka show coming up here in August. And this comes from an interview that Dave Filoni did with the summer issue of Empire. And I am pretty excited about this. So the big bad guy of the New Republic era that Dave Filoni is focusing on, so the Ahsoka show, and then of course Mandalorian, but also his upcoming movie, the big bad guy is in fact going to be Grand Admiral Thrawn. And to me, that is incredibly exciting, as it does set up a lot of maybe similarities with the Heir to the Empire trilogy. Now, I say similarities, but it's not going to be a copy and paste of the Heir to the Empire book trilogy by Timothy Zahn, but it is cool that in the High Republic era, we're now getting to see Thrawn be the big bad guy. And here's what Dave Filoni has to say. You can read this yourself. I'll put a link in the description and pin a comment for this article, but you can also just Google Dave Filoni and Thrawn to find this article. But I want to point out a couple things he says. So he does confirm that he will be the big bad of the New Republic era, and he elaborated on Thrawn's character and origin, describing what makes him different than Vader. So definitely in my eyes, when Timothy Zahn wrote Heir to the Empire, Thrawn became an iconic villain because he was different than anything we'd seen before. He explains he wasn't another helmet-wearing, lightsaber-wielding bad guy. There's a lot of pull to make characters that are like Vader because it's so iconic. Now, of course, I want to see more Vader. And of course, I want to see more Sith and lightsaber-wielding villains, but I really do like the idea of the big bad guy being something different than the sorcerer-like ways of a dark side user like Palpatine or Vader. He goes on to say the boldness that Timothy Zahn had was to make somebody that wasn't like that, like Vader, that didn't have those abilities, that couldn't fight in the same way, and the words of Star Wars, put the war part of it into it. So Thrawn was a Grand Admiral, a leader, a military strategist, which was different than both Vader and Palpatine. Of course, Vader was a great military strategist. He was a general during the Clone Wars when he was Anakin Skywalker, and of course the Emperor, because of his foresight and all of that, is able to command well, but Thrawn's strength is that he is a military strategist. He's able to outthink any of his opponents. Filoni goes on to say he's a critical player in this time period. We're fortunate to have that character and fortunate to have Lars playing him. So I think that what he means by really critical player in this time period, or at least my interpretation of this, is that this is a period of time where the Empire is scraping by. The remnants of the Empire need to be united. They've been scattered by the rebellion, now the New Republic, and they're essentially losing the war. If you didn't know, the war did not end immediately after the Death Star blew up over Endor. The war continued. The rebellion got the upper hand and was ultimately able to reorganize back into a new republic, but the Empire was still there. We saw that in The Mandalorian. We see that in novels and stuff that take place after Return of the Jedi, both in Legends and canon. It's not a Legends thing that the Empire clung on. It's not a canon thing that the Empire clung on. Both continuities have the Empire clinging on, and that is why Thrawn is so essential, because he is a strategist, a military leader that is really going to be essential in giving the Empire any hope to unite under one banner and make any sort of pushback against the New Republic. Now, something that I also think is interesting about Thrawn is that we've kind of gotten some different iterations of him. You can see that I've got the Heir to the Empire novels here. These are Legends. That includes Dark Force Rising and The Last Command. It's the first trilogy that Timothy Zahn released in 1990, so it's been out for a while, and it was really the trilogy of novels that set the pace for what the expanded universe looked like. But since then, we've gotten 2 other trilogies about Thrawn that are considered canon. The first trilogy that has come out under Timothy Zahn, they're all written by him, was the Imperial trilogy, and that is the one that gives us Thrawn. That one gives us Treason. Treason's the third one, and then Alliances. Alliances is the second one in that trilogy. So you have Thrawn, Alliances, and Treason. And all 3 of those take place right around the time of Rebels, and with some flashbacks, they also go a little bit back earlier to the earlier days of the Empire, but for the most part, they coincide with Rebels, the animated show. And then you have the Chaos trilogy, and that goes all the way back, and that's almost a prequel to show the origins of Thrawn. We get to see him with other Chiss, him as a part of the Chiss ascendancy. If you didn't know, that the Chiss, who Thrawn's species, they are a humanoid species, blue skin, red-eyed, and they live out beyond the unknown regions in what is called the Chaos. Essentially, it's uncharted space that nobody is able to get to, but the Chiss are able to navigate it. They're able to navigate it with navigators that they call Skywalkers. So maybe that's a separate video. But what I think is interesting about Thrawn as we see him develop throughout these 3 trilogies of novels, because Timothy Zahn said that the Thrawn in the canon novels, so the Ascendancy trilogy and the Imperial trilogy that we just talked about, that Thrawn is still the same character as the Legends Heir to the Empire trilogy. But if you've read them, you see that there's something a little bit different about Thrawn. In the Heir to the Empire trilogy, he's a little edgier, he's a little bit more direct, he's a little bit, well, more like a bad guy, if you will. But if you look at the Chaos Ascendancy and that trilogy, if you look at the Imperial trilogy, you start to notice that he is very loyal to who he is part of. So when he is still with the Chiss people, still part of the Ascendancy, he is loyal to the Chiss. And that whole trilogy, without giving any spoilers away, goes into Thrawn's rising through the ranks, but also the way that he protects the Ascendancy from an outside threat, which then is almost similar to what happens by the time he joins up with the Empire. And Thrawn initially comes into the Empire and becomes loyal to the Empire in an effort to, well, get to know the Empire a little bit, scout them out. But he swears loyalty to the Emperor and serves the Empire, even when it maybe provides a little bit of tension with his own people. But throughout that, we see Thrawn as kind of this character who, well, if you've seen the Ted Lasso show, then maybe I'll do a video on this, but Thrawn, in a lot of ways, his leadership style is similar to Ted Lasso's. He's somebody that believes in his people and gives them enough trust and like, I guess, a long enough leash to do their own thing, and he trusts that his people are going to do their part in battle or in whatever mission they're in, which is something that's completely different than other Imperial officers, especially because most Imperial officers are out for themselves and want to micromanage or cruelly command their crew to make sure that their crew gets it done perfectly so that they can climb the political ladder. One of the things about Thrawn is he does not have any political sense at all. In fact, it's almost a weakness of his, and you see that throughout both canon trilogies, that he's got almost no political awareness. So a lot of the people around him have to make up for that. It's Admiral Ar'alani or characters like that in the Ascendancy trilogy, or Eli Vanto in the Imperial trilogy. All these things are things that really start to show us this character who's not an evil guy. He is an incredible military strategist. He's ultimately becomes aligned with the Empire, so in that sense, I guess he's a bad guy, but he's not sadistic. He's not evil like Vader, who uses the Force to kill his officers who fail him. In fact, Thrawn gives his officers second chances over and over again. And you can even see some scenes in the Imperial trilogy where his officers and other officers or stormtroopers in the Empire recognize that. They know that there is a stark difference between Vader's leadership style and Thrawn's leadership style. And, well, Thrawn is the one that you want to make mistakes under. Don't get me wrong though, Thrawn can be ruthless, and as we get to Heir to the Empire and even towards the end of Rebels, we start to see that where he's a little bit more ruthless, a little bit more cruel. And I think that that's the kind of Thrawn that we're going to see as we get into the Ahsoka show and Dave Filoni gives us more of his New Republic story. I think that's going to be really interesting. I could probably sit here and talk about Thrawn for the rest of the night, but for now, I just want to leave it at this. Go check out the article. If you haven't already, go read some of the Thrawn novels. They're going to be excellent for helping you understand the big bad guy of Dave Filoni's New Republic era, his movie, and the upcoming projects that take place in that era. If you enjoyed this video, if you enjoyed this rant and ramble about Grand Admiral Thrawn, then go ahead and leave a like, subscribe for more, because I will continue to talk about Thrawn for a long time. I'm rereading all 3 of the trilogies that I just talked about in preparation for Ahsoka. I'm also watching Rebels, because you should do that as well. But I'm hoping to talk a lot more about Thrawn and hopefully provide some more information for maybe those of you who haven't dove into the books or maybe don't have time to do that. So anyways, have a great rest of your day, and may the Force be with you.